quiet because I might faint. Let's go ahead and turn our Bibles to the book of Romans, chapter 1. My wife and I, my two kids, my daughter of 19 years, single, studying to be vet tech, second year in college, my son, 17, who's also single, stayed behind to do an internship with Boeing. We are in Lakewood, been there for 4 years, took the church over. This church, it's a great church, great people. For a long time, for several years, the church was meeting in a funeral chapel. And my first goal when we got there is to look for a building and to, go into a building where we can function as a church. I have 12 minutes, so I have 4 conferences to make up, so 12 minutes to do a quick report. So we took it over, and the goal was to get this church into a building. And so long story short, we were able to finally get the church into a building, looking ahead, trying to plan for years ahead. One day we want to send out a church. Right now, we want to raise up disciples and send out couples. But little did I know that came a lot sooner. The same month that we moved into a building, we were able to send Daniel and Veronica into Modesto to take over the church from Alex and Iris Flores. But God's been doing a great work there in Lakewood. God's been helping us. We've had our ups and downs, but thank God for men who are I told myself I wasn't going to get emotional, but just thank God that God is able to reach men who can support you, and a wife and kids who can stand beside you and behind you and correct you when you're wrong. Obviously, there's a lot of mistakes. We're not perfect people, but God's been raising up men. God's been raising up disciples. God's been touching people. COVID didn't really stop, the congregation from attending online. They are gradually, slowly coming into the building. We're seeing new faces come in. We're seeing backsliders come in. We had been shaken up a little bit. Church was kind of split in half, but now we're beginning to see the numbers rise up again. People are coming, getting saved. They're hungry. They want to do things for God. And, there's men that are willing to stand in place to say, okay, Pastor, you go and enjoy the conference that we so enjoyed. We really, really needed it. We were kind of like wounded. I was going to name my sermon tonight, Wounded Soldiers, but it's kind of like, we're more like encouraged, we were longing to see you. And so great things are happening. Keep us in prayer. I know you guys are praying for us because we can feel it. But let's go ahead and turn to Romans chapter 1, verse 8. And I gave it a lot of thoughts, a lot of prayer, and was inspired to really just settle on trying to express our gratitude for this church. By church, I don't mean the structure, but I mean the people. You, the church, the people. That there is no way to really express how deeply indebted my family and I are to you. But hopefully, this evening I can encourage you. We can maybe impart something into you this evening, and because you've done a lot. You've done a lot for us. And so let's go ahead and read Romans chapter 1, beginning in verse 8 through verse 15. I want to minister a sermon entitled Longing to See You. And the Bible says, "First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers, making request if by some means, now at last, I may find a way in the will of God to come to you. For I long to see you, that I may impart to you some spiritual gift, so that you may be established. That is, that I may be encouraged together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me." Verse 13. "Now I do not want you to be unaware, brethren, that I often planned to come to you, but was hindered until now, that I might have some fruit among you also, just as among the other Gentiles. I am a debtor both to Greeks and barbarians, both to wise and unwise, so as much as is in me, I am ready to preach the gospel to you who are in Rome also. First of all, it's obvious that I'm no Apostle Paul, and I won't claim to even be close to being an Apostle Paul. But I will say that the Apostle Paul is one of my favorite people in the Bible. He's one of the great men that I love to read about. And here is a man who understands the importance of gratitude. Here is a man who understands the importance of relationships. He understands the importance of linking hearts with people. He has heard of the church in Rome. He has heard of their faith. He hasn't really had the opportunity to be with them. And so he writes these words to them, and he says, I long to see you. I desire to see you. And there was a deep desire to be with these people that he had a common faith with. He was drawing strength. He was drawing encouragement. Not from a power bar or an energy drink, but he was gaining strength and encouragement from their faith. And he wasn't afraid to express his gratitude for them. And so this is something that he made clear in his writings for many people throughout the churches, that as he writes these letters, he's expressing his gratitude. He's thanking them, and he's thanking this person, thanking this church, going to this church. He writes another letter, and so, in his letters, there's a lot of gratitude. Romans 1:8 says, first I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all. Ephesians 1:16 says, do not cease to give thanks for you. 1 Thessalonians 1:2 says, we give thanks to God always for you all. People in the church were constantly on Paul's mind. He was constantly thinking about their well-being. He was constantly thinking about their spiritual condition, that he was always trying to find ways to encourage the church, to pray for the church, and find reasons to, be in the presence of God, crying out for these people. What we read in our main text is that Paul is thankful for the faith of the people, which is obviously something that has made an impact throughout the churches. And made an impact in his own personal life, that Paul recognizes the faith of the people, which is foundational to what we are a part of. Our faith makes these things possible. Our faith makes it possible for people of different backgrounds to come together and have something in common with our faith. You're sitting next to people that you otherwise wouldn't fellowship with. You wouldn't even give them the time of the day, but you have a common faith that brings you together. It strengthens you and it encourages you. Raising up disciples, reaching the local community, sending out families, all of this takes faith. Not only on those that are being sent, but also on those that are sending. It takes a lot of faith. But this very faith that Paul speaks of has also bonded many hearts, including his, with theirs and the people of the church. That Paul speaks of this mutual faith that they have, something that encourages. Tell you what, I was just telling Pastor Gabe as I'm standing up here, I'm seeing a lot of faces I haven't seen in years. People that were no longer in the church while we were here, but now you're here. That's encouraging. That God is doing something wonderful. Too many names to say, but as I'm standing up here and my vision's getting a little blurry, but I can kind of make out who's who now. And I don't know if all of you understand the power of your faith and what it does for people like my family and I. And I know I don't speak for us only, but for every work that has ever come out from this congregation. But your faith to invest into families, into cities, into nations, for me personally has been very encouraging. Your faith in us allows us to be an extension of who you are. That even though you're not there, we're there as an extension of you because of the faith that you have in us and in other workers. I want to look at years of investment. Met my wife November 8th, 1996. I had been saved just a little over 2 years at that time. When we met, she wasn't saved at the moment, but after looking at me, she fell in love. I was not as in good shape as I was, or as I am now. But she got saved that night. God grabbed a hold of her heart. And here we are, 25 years later and 22 years of marriage, doing something for God. So not on our own doing. People were heavily involved in our lives. They were involved in our relationship. They were involved in raising our children. And, there was always people involved in our lives. And Paul speaks because he says there's this mutual faith that has bound us together. That we owe it all to your faith, to your investment. And to be quite honest with you, this is why we look forward to coming to a conference, which we haven't been to a conference for 4 years. But we look forward to being here. We look forward to being with you. We look forward to fellowship with you. And I know there's a lot of people that we yet to have fellowship with, but just to be in the presence in this church is encouraging. To see the saints of God still contending for the faith, right, that binds us together. We served in this congregation for many years. We served as youth pastors, as door directors, as Bible study leaders, as follow-up ministry and Vision Unlimited, and many other areas that if there was somewhere where we can serve, and if we could serve, then we would want to serve. And if we couldn't, we would try to do something. Because we understood the importance of fellowship. We understood the importance of relationship. And I mentioned this not so that you know our resume, what we are involved in, or to, hey, good job. That's not what we're saying. But because many of you invested into our lives one way or another. And we wanted to do our best. We wanted to do the best we could with what you taught us, with what you've given us, with what you've invested into us throughout the years. You have invested in people. You've invested in couples. You've invested in families. Lord knows that some of us were a mess, but yet you still invested into us. You still allowed us into your homes. You allowed us to be in your vehicles. You fed us. You took care of us. I don't watch the stock market much, but I do know that it has its ups and downs. It has profits, it has losses. Major companies filed for bankruptcy: Chuck E. Cheese, GNC, Guitar Center, JCPenney, J. Crew, Pier 1. Many companies have filed for bankruptcy. But an investment that has always provided a positive return is your investment into the lives of people for the glory of Christ. Seeing the many backsliders, as I said, I jump in virtually every now and then, and seeing people on camera, it's encouraging. But they're here because you've made that investment into them years ago. You invested, you took time to love them. You took time to take care of them. You took time to show them Christ's love. Galatians 6, verse 8 through 10 says, "For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption. But he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. See, none of those who have been sent, including us, would not have been sent if you had not invested into our lives. We would not have purpose, we would not have any reason to be out there if you did not invest into us. Because of this, there are people serving God right now. All around this world, there are local churches across the world. Why? Because here a local church in Tucson decided, you know what, I'm going to invest into some crazy people who are willing to go and to places unknown. Let's look at the importance of church family. I know I don't stand alone when I say it's tough being in the field. It's not easy. Young disciple rising up, let's destroy that myth that pioneering is easy and it's great and it's wonderful. Tell you what, it's not. It's not easy. It's not wonderful. Oh, I guess it has its moments. But I wish I could say again that pastoring a church was always going to be a blessing. I'll be honest, it's not always a blessing. It can feel like it's a curse sometimes. God, you brought me out here to kill us. I've had more doubts. I've had more thoughts of quitting and thoughts of regret out in the field than I've ever had in my life. I've often found myself telling myself and my family, it's only a season. Relax. It's going to be okay. It's only a season. But you know what? We had a lot of it's only a season conversations. Tons of them. Paul says in verse 11 to verse 12, "For I long to see you that I may impart to you some spiritual gifts so that you may be established, that is, that I may be encouraged together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me." Again, he's writing to them, and he longs to see them for encouragement, that I may be encouraged together with you. This is not a self thing. This isn't a me, myself, and I thing. This is a togetherness thing. Paul's talking about something intimate, a bond that cannot be established without face-to-face interaction, that he's talking about both sides benefiting from having a real FaceTime moment. It's impossible, right, to stay in touch with everyone. I have a list of contacts on my phone. People send texts, and sometimes, it's hard to respond. Sometimes it's hard to receive calls or to answer phone calls. But we try to stay connected. It's hard, even though technology has made it easier, sometimes it's still difficult to stay connected. But to be able to be in a place where you see the saints of God still at it, it does something to your spirit. Knowing you're still at it gives us hope. And I know all this technology, again, should make it easier. Should open better, newer opportunities to connect with people. But it still takes us further apart sometimes, because we spend time in meaningless social media looking through time-wasting content. But we become so concerned with connecting with the world that it distracts us from connecting with more meaningful relationships that are up close and personal. See, I don't have time to expand on them, but there are just some things that you can only give or get in person, that you can't get on social media. I'm not going to bore you with stories of things that we've experienced while out in the field, but I will say that we've missed a lot of your birthdays, we've missed a lot of your graduations. We've missed a lot of funerals and weddings. We've missed a lot of things that you do. We've missed years of things that would normally bring family and friends together. We missed them. Our kids missed out on growing and bonding with your sons and daughters. Right? All they have to do is try to make friends with that crazy guy that just walked into the church. Or maybe they're crazy parents because they're losing it out in the field. They've become the oddball when they come home. Right? They don't have that bonding experience with your sons and daughters, and so they feel out of place. They look out of place. We couldn't just call anybody at any given time to go and hang out together. People would just pop into our home sometimes and, hey, let's eat. All right, sure. But we don't really have that when you're out in the field. It takes some time to build that up. This is part of the reason we love being with people every chance we get. I do want to say thank you for the calls. Thank you for the text messages. Thank you for the visits, the tortillas and the tamales. No, you can't tell, but I've enjoyed each and every single one of them. See, you get away from this overheated oven, and we get to have some homies come visit us every now and then. It's wonderful to be able to connect with people that you've missed. That even though we're separated by 1,586 miles, a lot of you have been with us through some of the darkest days of our lives, some of our darkest days of our marriage, some of our darkest days in raising our kids, and the struggles of ministry. You have been there. Maybe it's your fault we're still out there, so I'll blame you guys. We've tried to come back, and it just doesn't happen for some reason. But listen, church, thank God. Thank God that you are a talented and gifted people. Thank God you are a handsome man with 0.0001% body fat. Thank God that you are a girl with jaw-dropping looks. Thank God for your little clique of friends that surround you. But there will be a time in your life when your muscle-headed self needs a church. There will be a time in your life where your jaw-dropping looks will require someone uglier than you to pray for you. This is why I have friends like Daniel Monreal and Alex Flores. I did because I can. I'm up here. But listen, church, there's going to be a time where your clique of friends will not be able to provide for you or nurture you, that you're going to need more than your little clique of friends. You're going to need a church. You're going to need people that don't have anything in common with you besides your faith. You're going to need to learn how to make friends outside of your circle. Invest into as many relationships as you can. Don't limit your circle of friends, because that is where the real blessing is. The bigger the circle, the better. The more the merrier. Make deposits now that will pay dividends later. Life and ministry is not only about you. It's not only about having the best workout. See, we have a successful ministry in Lakewood, Washington. Not because of my preaching, and they know that. It's not because of my singing or my jaw-dropping figure. But we have a successful ministry because we have faithful, and steadfast church family still praying and investing into us. Listen, your prayers work. Your investment works. Hebrews 10:24-25 says, "And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as in the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." Let me say this to those in live stream. Come to church. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together with the wonderful people here. You need them. Let's look at more than you know. See, the impact you make goes further than you know, goes further than you can see, can go further than what you experience. When we came back in 2017 to be on staff as youth pastors, I ran into several people that we had followed up on years and years and years ago. We would run into them at baseball games. We would run into them at the store. We would run into them at different places. And these were teenagers. These were kids in Vision Unlimited. These were middle school and high schoolers. And years down the road, we run into them. They recognize us. Don't really recognize them because they've really outgrown themselves. But these were not part of the elite crowd. These were not the singers and the actors and the dancers and the performers. Although some of them tried to be, but they just didn't make the cut. These were kids, again, that had no, talent to really show that they are great people. These were the ones that would be picked last for a basketball team or for dodgeball or whatever. It would be the ones that get hit with the ball more often at dodgeball. These were the kids that were bypassed and ignored by the talented and the gifted teenagers in the church. And sadly, by some adults too. We would see them by themselves and we would see them alone, as there are probably some here. But we would look at their lives and we would spend time with them and we would invest into them. And you know what they remember? They remember that we acknowledge them. And I'm telling you, this is 10 years later. They remember we acknowledged them. They remember that we spent time with them. They remember that we loved on them. They didn't remember our flaws and our mistakes. Thank God for that, because there was many. They didn't remember they remember the investment that we made into their lives. And again, some of them thanked us in tears. They were crying, saying, "Thank you for caring for me. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for acknowledging me. Thank you for picking me up, even though we live 3 states away, to bring us to Vision." Some attend other churches now. But they stated that they stayed saved because of the impact that we had on them. See, these were middle school and high school kids who are now parents. See, the impact goes further than you know. It goes further than you think. We often wonder if we are making a difference. As pastors out there, we wonder, man, is this even working? Is this even making a difference? Is this even making an impact? Is this even worth it? Wife's in the corner, her eyes crazy-eyed, praying, crying out to God for her husband who's losing his mind too. Is this worth it? Seeing our kids struggle, is this worth it? The devil cannot make me think now that I'm wasting my time. Because now I'm convinced that every investment that we make makes an impact. Listen, we've been through enough at this point to understand that the grace of God goes beyond what we can see. We understand the impact now. We understand the wonderful investment that you have made. I'm telling you, if you can take it from us, it's working. It's doing something. It's changing the world. It's changing families. Your investment is making a difference. We used to hide from Bible study leaders when they would come pick us up. But listen, your investment worked. We may not have agreed with everything you said, but your investment worked. Thank you for the cheeseburgers, the hot dogs, bowling, taking us bowling. All that has made an impact. It's made a difference. Sharing a scripture here and there, praying with us here at the altar, or bringing us or dragging us to the altar 10, 15 times in one service, but you brought us to the altar because you knew we needed God. Listen, the impact goes beyond, and it's made an impact more than what you know. Isaiah 55, verse 10. To verse 11 as I begin to wrap this up. For as the rain and snow come down from heaven and does not return there without watering the earth, making it bear and sprout and providing seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so will my word be which goes out of my mouth. It will not return to me void, useless, without result, without accomplishing what I desire, and without succeeding in the matter for which I sent it. Listen, you may not have your life together, but you might just be one step ahead of the other person. And as you invest the Word of God into those kids or into those people, into that couple, into that man that comes in broken, as you make those small little deposits, God's Word does not come back void. They may not remember exactly what you told them. But as people walk in and you welcome them in, it makes a difference. I know that you know that you're investing into reaching people. But let me help you understand that the impact that you are making goes beyond what you understand and see, that I have been on both ends, the receiving end and in the giving end. That I've given and I've wondered, where is this money going to? What impact is it going to? Or what impact is it making? I try to do the, where's George.com thing. Try to follow the dollar and see where it's at, Doesn't work, but anyways, I've often wondered. But if you can at least look at our family, Pastor Dave this morning, and all these preachers, all these families that have been sent out, your investment's working. It's making an impact. I often say this, not because we're special people, but because of what God has done through us. But what if we would have given up? What if we would have given up? I've sat in the office with pastors several times. I can't do this. But what if we would have given up? What if we didn't get involved in invasion teams and outreach? What if we just settled to just come to church and be a pillar? But even a pillar has to be involved, so just come to church and, I don't know. But what if you've given up? What if I've given up? What if we would have given up? Where would the people be that we've reached? Where would those people be that we would have made an impact on? Again, not that God would not have reached the same people, but I've reached people that you would never come across. We've reached people that you would never see. You've reached people that I would never see, and probably I would never want to see. But where would my children and my marriage be if some of you would have given up? Where would we be? Where would the Lakewood Church be? Where would the Modesto Church be? Where would Vision be? Where would the Many Nations, where would these churches be if you would have given up? What we're a part of goes beyond what we know, goes beyond what we see. See, it is the relationships that keep us. Relationships that we have invested into years ago. These relationships have become a blessing and a strength for us today. The ministry is not just about us, but we have truly experienced being an extension of Tucson, that we have never disconnected from Tucson. We've stayed connected in many ways. You've stayed connected in many ways. For a whole year while we landed in Lakewood, somebody came and visited us every month. We stayed connected. Our house is open if you want to come visit. But listen, when we were in pain, when we were suffering, you, the church, you, the people, you and your prayers, you were there. You were there to encourage us. You were there to kick us. You were there to pick us back up. You were present. And we're still here. We're there. Not only because of your prayers and investment, but also because of your sacrifice. See, you've walked alongside us through this journey. Even when we felt alone, even when we felt forgotten, that you have constantly reminded us that we are never alone. I'm convinced you are there. This is something that no big tech company can ever replace. This face-to-face interaction is wonderful. I could just sit here and look at you. The pandemic really did a number on people. But not being able to come in for a conference can do a number on you too. Not seeing people, not being with people can do a number on us. But Paul says, I long, I desire to see you. Listen, the impact that you've made goes beyond what you can see. It's making a difference. Keep your eyes open. Keep your hearts open. Because God's doing something beautiful here. But expand your circle. Especially you teenagers, expand your circle. Break up your circle. Reach those that you have nothing in common with. Don't worry about what talents they don't have and what they look like and what they smell like. Build a relationship, because that impact will go further than you know. Let's bow our heads. Let's close our eyes for just a few moments.